Let's dive into this. $5 billion. Just take a second to really respect the sheer financial weight of that price tag. To put that awe-inspiring scale into perspective, $5 billion? That's actually more than the cost of building the Freedom Tower in New York City. It's roughly equivalent to the entire GDP of some small island nations. So when a company commits that staggering level of capital to a single campus, they aren't just building, an office block with some cubicles and a water cooler. No way. They are making a monumental statement. It's about who they are, how they operate, and exactly what they believe the future looks like.
And, as you might guess, that kind of budget buys an incredible amount of space. We're talking about futuristic architecture, sprawling across an immense 176 acres of land. But it's really what they did with those acres that truly matters. Because this isn't just a building. It's really more like a carefully curated, completely closed-off utopia. By planting over 9,000 drought-resistant trees, they essentially created their own isolated private forest. And the whole point was to specifically block out the outside world. It completely cements Apple Park's status as practically its own ecosystem. It's a sanctuary, really, built to isolate and totally inspire the minds that are creating the technology of tomorrow.
But this futuristic marvel didn't just magically appear overnight. We actually have to rewind all the way back to the year 2006. Because despite its incredibly modern, almost alien aesthetics today, Apple Park has been a really, really long time in the making. It was actually Steve Jobs himself who first announced this wildly ambitious project to the world. He famously pitched it to the Cupertino City Council as this grand vision, a dream to create a campus that perfectly reflected the very soul of the company he built. Having a grand vision, though, that's really only the very first part of the battle. The truly grueling reality behind basically any mega project is the absolute mountain of bureaucracy. I mean, before a single shovel ever even hit the dirt, there were 8 long years, yes, 8 years, consumed entirely by intense planning, endless pitches, and just a total labyrinth of permit applications. They had to battle through insanely complex local zoning laws, they had to address intense community traffic concerns, and navigate these exhaustive environmental impact reports. It's a pretty powerful reminder that turning a $5 billion dream into reality, it requires a massive, massive tolerance for friction. Let's move to and see how this builds. Because the timeline really puts this incredible struggle into perspective. You have your starting point back in 2006, right? When the project was really just this bold announcement. And then comes that massive, exhausting 8-year bureaucratic gap, dedicated entirely to planning and permits. So it wasn't until 2014 that construction finally broke ground and actually got well underway. And the culmination of all of that intense effort? Well, by 2017, the vast Apple workforce was finally starting to move in. So think about that. It took over a decade from the moment the idea was shared with the public to the moment employees actually sat down at their desks inside. So what did a whole decade of time and a $5 billion budget actually yield across those 176 acres? Well, Apple Park is not just one single monolithic structure. It's actually this really expansive, carefully designed campus. And it's made up of several key landmarks, with every single one serving a highly specific, very strategic purpose for the tech giants. You can think of the campus ecosystem as relying on 3 main pillars. First and foremost, you've got the massive ring-shaped building. This is that spaceship we talked about earlier, and it really acts as the supreme, iconic symbol of the entire brand. Then there is the meticulously designed Apple Auditorium. And finally, the Apple Park Visitor Center. Let's actually break those last 2 down a little bit further, just to really understand their distinct roles.
Taking center stage first is the Steve Jobs Theater. That's the official name of the auditorium. Now, if you've ever watched a highly anticipated Apple product launch, you know that presentation is absolutely everything to their brand identity. And this theater, it's an architectural marvel all on its own. It features the world's largest freestanding carbon fiber roof. And get this, it's resting entirely on a cylinder of glass with absolutely zero visible support columns. Crazy, right? Once inside, attendees actually descend underground into this massive hidden staging area. This gives the company absolute, pristine, and just total control over exactly how they reveal their newest innovations to the world.
But Apple Park isn't completely walled off from the outside world. The inclusion of the Apple Park Visitor Center is actually a really vital component of the whole campus. It serves as this dedicated, physical space where the general public, like you and me, can actually come and connect with this sprawling headquarters.